Schedule a Zoom with me at GCExperts.com/Zoom.
When you get the government job, which items are you normally sending to the sub? Are the kind of the same ones a lot of the time, or
So the way that I like to explain that is, do you remember back in the old days when we had big copy machines?
yes, big ones?
And, and sometimes there was something on the piece of paper that we were copying that we didn't want to show up on the copy. So
Right.
what we would do is we'd put a piece of paper under where that was so that when it took a photocopy, that would just be a white space. Remember that?
Yes.
Okay. In today's world, people do that with like a PDF editor, like Cute PDF or something like that. You can cut pieces out that you don't want people to see.
Okay.
The reason I'm mentioning that is you have to imagine if you're a plumbing contractor, you only want him to see the parts of the contract that are related to what his scope of work, like what he needs to see in order to properly bid a job. Like, we're not trying to hide the scope of work from him. We're just trying to hide the things that he's going to look at and go, what the hell is that? I don't know what that is, so I'm going to raise my price just in case they try to tag me with that.
Okay. Okay. Very good. Uh,
Now, I know that we talk about a bid package being what the government provides you, but I like to think of it as a bid package that I put together for my potential subcontractors to see.
okay.
And so I do that for every job. I cut the whole document up, take it from 50 pages down to 2 pages, and make things real simple. This is
Right.
all I'm asking you to do.
And that's all so the documents they need are just whatever they need to finish the job.
To properly quote it. I'm not trying to pull the wool over anybody's eyes,
Right.
and I talk to them about it. I sometimes I say, "Hey, I know this is kind of vague, but let's just talk about what they're trying to accomplish." And they might say, "Well, geez, I need to go look at the site." And I say, "Suppose you did go look at the site. You'd have option A or option B. All right. Let's just say that option B is more expensive. How much more expensive would it be if you went out there and you saw the conditions? I don't
Okay.
know, maybe $3,000. Suppose I just gave you the $3,000.
Okay. I think they'd like the sound of that too.
Yeah,
Sounds like.
because it makes them look. It's not that it makes it sound like you're looking out for them. You are looking out for them.
Hmm. And you want to be a win-win with everything. So,
Absolutely.
okay. Um, do you have a checklist of items that every job requires so you don't overlook something when you're
That's in my project management class. Look, you're smarter than the average bear. So, um, I'll send you a link to the project management class when we get off this Zoom, and you can go through it. It's about an hour and a half or 2 hours of me just reading into the camera,
okay?
but you'll get um, an idea of what those requirements are.
Cool.
Normally, it doesn't come until 90 days after you join the membership program. And the only reason I staggered it out is because technically you don't need that stuff until you actually win a federal contract. But
Right.
I think you'll like it. So I'll send it to
Yeah, I'm a nerd.
you. Me too.
Okay. How concerned, and I know I'm jumping the gun a little bit, but how concerned do I need to be with certified payrolls doing the beginner jobs and more right now?
Right now, there is no concern, and I teach certified payrolls in the project management course.
Okay. Okay. For quality control alternate manager in the CQC plan, um, should I remove that or use my name again if I don't have anybody to, or does that?
That's probably the $1 million question. So I don't really do a good job. I really don't do a good job on this. So let's talk about this for a second.
Okay.
When I first came into the construction business, after that 15-year-old job, I'm like 20 years old or something, and I get sent out to this island. No, it wasn't even the island. It was on the mainland. Anyway, I walk into this room of 30 people associated with this federal contract. And I'm just the snot-nosed kid told to just sit there, shut up, and listen, right?
Uh-huh.
But what I'm listening to is like a teaming agreement between the government and the contractor. In the late 80s, early 90s, the federal government was recognizing that they're at odds with the contractor on these larger contracts because the contractor, he's motivated by making money and the government's motivated by getting everything done perfectly, blah blah blah, and we need to work together to make this thing happen. So everybody signs this teaming agreement and la di da, we're all friends. Then around 1994 ish, I get called by my dad and said, you need to go to a CQM class, Contractors Quality Management, or QCM, Quality Contract, whatever. So I go to this class, and it's a 2 day class put on by the Corps of Engineers to get you CQM certified, and you can now fill out this Contractors Quality Management form. And in those days, you could be the superintendent and the CQM, but they were two entirely different roles. Superintendent was just standard super, managing the project, making sure everybody's there, doing it right. Eh, Hold on, just one. The water heater at my office exploded, and they're cleaning everything up.
Oh, lovely.
So anyway, it's a 2 day class. Now you have a superintendent and then CQM. They can be the same person on these smaller jobs. But the CQM, his responsibility is making sure that everything that gets installed complies with the contract requirements. Talk about the fox guarding the hen house, right?
Right.
But they accept that. Now, flash forward about 10 years later, so like 2000, well, maybe not 10 years, but 2002, something like that. All of a sudden, this thing comes out called activity hazard analysis. What the hell is that? Never heard of it.
Yeah.
So I start looking into it. It's a form that you fill out when you're going to do something that's got hazard. Here's everything that you're going to do to protect yourself against that hazard. We're not going to go up on a ladder we're only going to use ladders that are not electrically conductive. Okay.
Uh-huh.
We're only going to do things this way, blah, 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 blah. Today, you can Google an AHA form, activity hazard analysis, and you can pretty much, in fact, I think even ChatGPT will build them now.
Okay.
But what I'm trying to do is give you a connection of the dots.
Okay.
Then about 10, 15 years ago, all of a sudden, this new thing comes out, SSHO. The hell is that? Site Safety Health Officer. Well, how do you get that certification? It's not a certification. It's three things. It's you've been to a CPR course, you got that certification. You've been to an OSHA 30, and you've been through a fall protection course. Which, by the way, that's the hardest thing to get because they only have them every 3 months, and it's like $2,500 to go. But they'll a Corps of Engineers job. Some of them will require an SSHO on site. If you don't have a homegrown SSHO or you're not an SSHO, you gotta buy one, and they're $1,000, $1,500 day guys because they're in high demand and they've already been through the course. So these are things to be aware of. So if it's just CQM, you can go back to that email that I sent you in the pre-workshop emails where I gave a link to the Army Corps of Engineers class, and it's online now. You don't even have to go in person. And so if you have a potential superintendent, let's just say even that you're going to be paying a guy that works for somebody else to be on your site, he's going to be the foreman anyway. You might pay for him to take the CQM course just so he can have it.
Like a sub, you mean?
Yeah, because in the workshop we talk about, hey, suppose I did give you $50,000 for this job. You gonna have a foreman out there? Yeah, Joe. Well, suppose I give Joe an extra couple $100 a week or something, and if anybody comes out there and raises their and says who represents, Ace Hardware, whatever your company is, and he raises his hand and says I do. Okay. And then he fills out a daily report at the end of the day. He's my superintendent on site. But let's just say on that job, it requires also a QCM. I might pay for him to take the course so he's got the certification so he can be both.
Okay.
I mean, there's
And
plenty of money in these jobs to get over these hurdles, but you're asking about a specific thing, and that's a particular hurdle.
yeah. And that'll be in the specs, I take it.
Oh yeah, it'll be in the requirements. And it'll typically be on a core jobs. Some larger Navy jobs is typically where you'll see that kind of stuff.
But this smaller stuff I'm doing, that's probably not a thing right now, right?
Probably not unless it specifically says QCM. But the SSHO you want to be paying attention to, but you'll typically only see that on core jobs.
Okay. Um, One of the jobs, the solicitations, I looked at it had a specs sheet, and then there was another one where it showed the plans, and in the plans it said specifications. And you said that the order of precedence applies, to these things.
That's
And
right.
if on the plans there were like let's say that the sewer mound thing was not in the specs, but it was drawn, even though that's on the same PDF, would that order of precedence apply still?
Absolutely.
Okay.
There's another part of this thing. Did you key into where I talk about interpretation?
Yes,
Would you like a reminder of that?
I would.
Okay. The best example for this is where we talk about replace the walk pads. You ever been on a roof, a hot mop roof with gravel, and they've got walk pads up there that you walk along?
I've not been on one, but I know what you mean.
Okay. We had a job that said replace walk pads, remove and replace walk pads.
Is that all it said?
Yep. So, our one interpretation is remove and replace.
With the same thing you're saying?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
One interpretation is remove and replace with new.
Right.
Okay. Now, not this specific remove and replace walk pads, but this has been argued before the Armed Services Board of Contract Appeals before, this
Okay.
concept.
Hmm.
And the judge's opinion came out. And one of the great things about the Armed Services Board of Contract Appeals is that a judge oversees the trial, but he has to convince another judge to sign off on the opinion before an opinion can be made public.
Okay.
So you can't just get some errant judge out there making bad decisions.
Oh, that's good.
Okay. The opinion came out and it said the contractor has a right to a reasonable interpretation of the contract documents as a whole. The reason they put as a whole in there is that all the nooks and crannies in the contract have to come into play. You have a right to a reasonable interpretation, but you can't just pick one little thing and apply that. Okay.
Right.
Then he said the government has a right to a reasonable interpretation of the contract documents as a whole. Great. We both get a reasonable interpretation. Then it said, even if the government's interpretation is deemed more reasonable, The contractor's interpretation prevails,
Nice.
thereby placing the burden on the drafter of the documents. Okay?
Uh-huh.
So that who's the drafter of the documents? The government.
Right.
Okay. So if they wanted new walk pads, they could have said replace with new Armstrong XCX blah 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 walk pads, couldn't they have?
Yes.
And they could have put that in the specs. They could have put that on the drawings. They could have put it anywhere because it's the contract documents as a whole.
Would it be your duty to say, hey, that's a latent ambiguity or not?
Probably not in this specific case. There are cases where latent ambiguities come up, but not in this particular case. If in the spec it said under the section for, walk pads, use Armstrong HCX,
Okay.
it would have been obvious that it was they're meaning new. But
Yes.
in that case, it didn't say that. In other words, the argument from the contractor would have been if you guys had wanted new, suppose that I went and used a competitor walk pad, okay, and it's thinner, not as thick than what you guys were intending. I could have just gotten away with that too, right? Because you guys didn't specify,
Right.
okay? So, anyway, that's how the reason that I'm mentioning this is when you see something like that, consider what they're trying to accomplish, the contract documents as a whole. But usually things like that are small amounts of money. But if you consider it a significant amount of money, pick up the phone, call me, and we'll argue it.
Okay. Interesting. So that makes me kind of wonder at what point do you do you look at the patent or the latent ambiguity? I guess we'll take that on a case by case basis and figure that out as we go.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of one. It comes up, somebody calls me with a latent or patent ambiguity issue about once every 2 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's pretty rare, but it does happen.
Mhm.
So 7 times in the last 15 years, something like that.
I think the workshop example was the paint these rooms a certain color, the next
Yeah,
one.
don't paint the
Okay.
room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Um, I think that's all the questions I got. I appreciate your help.
Yeah, I love doing these little Zooms and answering questions.
Good. Because I'll have more. Well, I'll look for your workshop thing or your
Project management. Yeah, I'll
project
send it to you as
management.
soon as we get off the phone.
Yeah, I'll start diving into that. And I suppose the sam.gov thing will be another week or something, probably.
What stage are you at? I'm not involved in the SAM stuff. Did you already fill out the paperwork and send it back to Elda?
Yeah, Elda's done all that, and she says now when Sam sends you emails, forward them to me. So that's where we're at.
Okay, yeah, then that's going to be your approval or disapprove, and then she'll fix whatever needs to do, and then she'll submit it again.
And will she? I mean, will the email from Sam say you're approved, or will is
It
that
what it'll do is and part of the process of giving her the information packet back was your UEI.
UE?
It
Okay.
it it's not going to say you're approved. It's going to say here's your blah 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 blah. It's this paragraph, but it's going to show your UEI, and then it's going to have a slash, and then there's going to be a 5-digit code like 1YZK4 or some shit like that.
Well,
That 5-digit code is your cage code.
okay. Okay.
Once you have your cage code, you're ready to go.
Will the cage code cover like hire an electrician to do a job or a
All
plumber?
your cage code is your number. Think of it like your social security number with the federal
Oh,
government.
so I'm thinking a NAICS code then, probably.
NAICS code is going to cover. She'll put something like 20 or 30 NAICS codes in your SAM registration. In
Okay.
fact, that's probably already been done.
Okay. So if we do a plumbing job, that'll cover that, electrical or whatever.
You got it.
Okay.
Yeah, I when I got her started on this whole thing, I went through and picked all the NICS codes that we did. So there would be like 20 or 30 of them in there.
Okay. Cool. Well, I'm all fired up and ready to go.